Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ina and I have here today a video that is going to be a little bit different from my previous ones. I won't get into too many details about the plants and care and everything, but it's going to be more like a relaxed video. I have this Vanda that I suspect not the most healthy one. I bought it in the last orchid show that I went to, and the Vanda is in a basket. It's a hanging Vanda and has orange blooms. I need to repot it because I haven't been able to actually water it properly in the last few days. So what I've done here, just to explain to you, oops, it's a huge pot. I fill this pot with water and this plant is basically sucking the water. The roots are being hydrated, but I wanted these roots to be flexible as well because I need them to fit in the pot. And the way to do it is to have this plant, these roots hydrated first. I hope my pot will fit this plant. I don't have a transparent pot, but I have an opaque one and I drew some holes in it. That's the pot, as you can see. Hopefully the plant will fit in here. That's the bigger pot that I have. So what I'm gonna do now, I will cut the flower spike, start removing this, I don't know, this basket, this plastic basket from it to be able to pot this plant. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, it helps me a lot. And let me know in the comments down below if you enjoy Vandas orchids. I love them so much. I have one in bloom, I'm gonna show you soon. But the problem is the space, especially these bigger Vandas. They are huge, so I don't have much space around for them. But for Ascocentrum and other Vandaceous type orchids, oh my gosh, I love them. Their blooms are beautiful, they have long-lasting flowers, everything is good about these plants. Except to their size sometimes, but if you have a big space, I think you should give it a go. Vandas are so easy to care for as well. They are drought-tolerant plants, they are easy to grow, but they are also high light. So if you live in a place like me that don't have much light during the year, you probably will have to use some growing light. But something very nice that I want to tell you here, something different. Vandas are not from my country. I'm from a tropical country. I'm from Brazil. But Vandas are not originate from there. They come from Asia. But I do have one species here. I have a Vanda sanderiana, and my Vanda sanderiana bloomed for me for the second time, being exposed only to natural sunlight in London. So I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's actually true. I have a pretty good exposure here where I am. And behind my camera there, I have a Vanda sanderiana hanging there. So it receives, if I'm not mistaken, it's an Easter exposure window. During winter time, the lighting here is not the best for tropical plants, but because it receives so much highlight, like at least half year, it enjoys it so much and to grow nicely without any growing light. I want to tell you this story because everybody tells you like, oh, they need some lighting, they need some artificial lighting. I don't have much space. I have space only for this one there. So the other ones are under growing light, but it's possible. I want to tell this story because people tell you that's not going to be possible to bloom them if you live in a place like me in London, in the UK or northern countries, or maybe countries that are very close to the south, one of the Arctics. If you are above, close to one of the Arctics up north or down south, it's possible. If you have a very good window with a good exposure, sunlight exposure, you actually can rebloom Vandas. I'm quite surprised, but that happened to me. And yeah, I want to share this story. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to start removing everything. I have to cut the flower spike. I will keep it in water for now because I really need it to be completely flexible. Let's see. The dried flower spike. What I want to tell you is be careful with these plastic baskets. I'm going to turn it away from me because sometimes plastic just fly around and I don't want to have one of these pieces in my eyes. So I hate removing these. Sorry. You can find it in other types of orchids as well. I've seen some plastic baskets in small Vandaceous type orchids, but it's a little bit dangerous, so be careful when you're doing it. So the upper part is removed, and be careful with the roots as well. It's important not to cut the roots with the plastic. Just said that. Oh. one accident happened here. Yeah, sorry plant. The bottom is the most difficult part because the roots are all attached to this. And although it's here and it's being hydrated and I try to make it a little bit, I may lose 1 or 2 roots, which will be fine. I hope so. Also, I don't know if you can see. I hope you can see what is happening here. So I'm just taking away this whole basket. You have to be gentle and careful. The problem is these plants are epiphytes, so they grow attached to trees and to tree trunks. So what's happening here is that basically it is attached to the plastic. So to remove it, you must have lots of patience, especially if you want to save your plant. Almost there. That's the worst part, is removing this plastic basket. When I get rid of these, things will be easier. If you have the climate for it to keep your plant outside, maybe you wish to keep your vandas hanging or attach them to trees. This is all good. That's all fine. In my case, I'm gonna pot this vanda because I live in a flat and I don't want to have to water it more frequently than I have to water my other orchids. So I don't have hanging orchids, bare rooted orchids, and this kind of stuff. That's the main reason why I'm removing that, because I want to pot my vanda. The problem with these orchids is it has thousands of tiny roots around this basket. Some of the nurseries, they have automated ways of watering these plants, so it's easier for them to keep them hanging, you know, and just spray or hose them down all at once. But for people like grow them at home, I don't work with plants or anything of the sort, so I have a full-time job, so I can't keep up with its watering. But if you have a way of doing so, or if you can actually have it outside, must be an amazing experience. I used to have orchids outside when I was a kid. At my parents' place in Brazil, we have orchids on the trees, and it's so low maintenance compared to growing them at home, because the thing is, if you have them in a tree, nature will do what they have to do, you know. They receive rainwater, they have the right climate for it to grow, the right lighting. It's completely different. It's a different type of way of taking care of it and enjoying it. I think I mentioned that. The most common orchids that we have at home there, because I grew up in a tropical country, but I come from the mountains, so we do have a proper winter, not like London, not a long, never-ending winter, but we do have cool temperatures there. So, for example, July and August, the temperatures can come close to 0 degrees Celsius in the evening, so there is a huge difference in temperature between day and night when it's winter there. So Dendrobium nobile, the species, they are everywhere in trees, and they bloom very, very nicely because of the difference between day and night. Another type of orchids that I remember seeing a lot, called bamboo orchids. These are terrestrial orchids that produce beautiful flowers. People used to have that in their gardens as well. And another one that's very common is oncidiums, especially the yellow oncidium. It's very common in trees, and people have that in their gardens, at their homes, and everything like that. So just to let you know, finally, my orchid is free. Oh. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to inspect the plant to check which root is alive, which root is not alive. I intend to remove it from the water very, very shortly, but honestly, I don't want to risk not being able to pot it. So what I'm going to do now is just inspect and remove all the dried roots. This plant is not very healthy, by the way. It produced the cakey. The cake bloomed. What was in bloom at the garden center wasn't the plant, was the cake actually. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna remove this from the water to be able to inspect the roots. I have here my... Okay, perfect. Let me remove this big vase. So guys, I just removed my plant from the water bucket. Actually, it was a vase full of water, and I'm going to inspect all of the roots of this Vanda to see what is alive and what is not alive anymore. As I was saying, we have all that common orchids in trees, but Brazil is full of very, very nice and amazing orchids. I was thinking about doing a video about it. Some of the amazing orchids that we have and hybrids originated from these plants in Brazil. Let me know if you're interested about that. By the way, not talking only about the orchids, I'm finally visiting my family after 4 years. I'm gonna cry because of the pandemic and the personal life issues. I returned to the UK in 2018 with my daughter, and since then I was not able to go to Brazil because when we returned, first of all, it's very expensive, tickets and stuff, so we couldn't go. I was looking for a job, and until I settled, my husband was living here already, but we were basically living with my in-laws and trying to settle. My mom came in 2019, but I don't see my family for so many years now. I have a niece. She's 3 now, and I don't know her. I haven't met her. I'm very, very happy able to see my friends. And that's something very interesting that I'm planning on doing is doing some videos there, maybe visiting nursery there, showing you the plants that we have around. I come from a beautiful place in the middle of the Atlantic forest. We have so many beautiful plants, and there are so many plants that you find here in garden centers and stuff. And in Brazil, they are everywhere. So I really want to do some videos when I'm there. But I'm not going now. I'm only going in August when it's summer here. It's going to be winter there. That's the downside of it. And as I mentioned before, we do have a proper winter there. And I'm sad because here is always cold. And when I'm supposed to enjoy a little bit of the sunshine, it's going to be cold again. But that doesn't matter since I will be able to see my family and my friends and enjoy my country a little bit. I won't stay for long. It's going to be only 3 weeks, but it's enough to eat the food that I miss. Everybody that comes from another country will find some identification in there. It's not that I don't enjoy being here, but I miss many things from my country. We have specific smell. People has a specific smile on their face. There is these things that connect me to, and also it's about being connected to your roots as well. That's for me something important, and I want my daughter to be able to experience that as well a little bit. She's been here for 4 years without going back, so I want her to feel what Brazil is, you know. She's bilingual, by the way. For me, it's really important for her to be able to speak both languages. So she goes to school here, and English comes very natural to her now because of school. But Portuguese is something that she will have as well because we always speak in Portuguese at home. And I think it's going to be important for her in the future. I hope I knew a second language since I was a baby, but that didn't come so easily for me. But for her, it's given, you know. She doesn't have to struggle or anything. It's so natural. I'm so happy that we'll be able to go. Finally, after all this time, after what happens in the world in the last 2 years, we couldn't travel anymore, and we bought the tickets twice, and it was canceled. Just to let you guys know, so I inspect all the roots here on the top. I usually spray hydrogen peroxide on my plants to avoid snails, but in this case, the root to the plant won't have any snail, I'm sure. The only thing is many tips of these roots, they are completely dry. This plant was struggling in the garden center because it was not in bloom anymore, so it was in the discounted section. There were more in there, but I couldn't buy because they were bigger than this one. And my husband was like, oh, buy more. I said, no space for more. There was a pink one that was beautiful. I don't have a pink Vanda apart from the sanderiana, but my sanderiana is very muted pink. It's not that type of one sanderiana that has that super. All of these roots are completely dead, by the way. Just you can see they are dry. They don't have any substance in them. So I'm just removing them one by one. There is no point in having these dry roots inside my pot. And I think that's all. Still have a big root system. not a big problem, you see. Has a cake in here. The cake bloomed, as I said, but this cake doesn't have any roots, so I can't remove it. It's growing nicely and everything, but I don't see roots in it. When it's roots, I can remove it from the mother plant, but doesn't have any now. So hopefully now, fingers crossed, what I'm gonna do here, let me clean up and then I'm gonna show you. 1 second. Okay, so I have here my pot. I have no idea how many. It's a 3-liter pot. I wanna know if it will fit. I hope so, because I don't have other pot. That's why it was in water. Yeah, it will fit nicely. Perfect. How I'm gonna pot this Vanda? I know that it's hard to find a balance, especially because most of these plants, they are kept hanging in baskets. So we need to make sure that these plants will have lots of air in their pots, because they need to adapt to the environment. So if it's too humid, it's gonna probably rot the roots. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna place some sphagnum moss, but mainly bark, because bark is pretty airy and I don't want these plants to be soggy. So it's gonna be a little bit of sphagnum moss in the bottom and through the pot, but mostly bark to provide air in these roots, especially because I live in a cold country, so I don't need much moss, especially for vandas. So it's gonna be just a little bit of moss. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pot it and I'm gonna show you when I'm done. And as I told you, something important is to hydrate and water your roots before you pot them. Because vandas, especially if they are dry, the roots will be very, very hard and they won't fit in the pot. And you can easily break them. So if you don't want to break your roots, what I would advise you is to keep them in a bucket of water as I did before. So they will be pretty flexible, and then you can actually adjust them into the pot without breaking the root system. So that's what I would advise you to do. That's what I'm doing now. So because it is flexible, I'm just adjusting the whole plant in here. I hope you can see it. So it does fit in my pot nicely. I'm gonna try to put it around the middle of my pot. And now I'm gonna fill it most with bark. This Vanda is basically finishing with all of my bark. You need to have a lot of bark when you are potting vandas. That's very important as well, because I mean the bigger vandas, there are some smaller vandas that you can pot like phalaenopsis, but the bigger ones, yeah, they need potting medium. They need loads of potting medium. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna place 1 layer of sphagnum moss here in the top. Not a lot, as I said, I'm not placing a lot of sphagnum moss. And I'm gonna give it some slow release fertilizer. Just place some beads here and there to help this plant grow nicely. And to conclude this video, I will show you this before, but before I finish, while I'm potting it, just to conclude that it's possible to grow vandas potted, I'm gonna show you my 3 successful stories. One of them is my big yellow Vanda. I'm gonna probably showing you some videos now when it was in bloom in February. And now I have my purple Vanda in bloom for the 2nd time this year. So I think it was in bloom in January, and now it's in bloom again. And this time is even better than it was in January. The flowers look amazing, and it is potted. These 2 are under growing light. And the 3rd one that I'm showing by my window is the Vanda sanderiana that I mentioned. I think this one will benefit from air pockets, so I'm not really worried about them, especially because it was growing in air, you know. So hi guys, I'm back. So as you can see, I have finished repotting my Vanda. Not repotting, potting my Vanda because it was a bare root one. It's looking like this. Although it's not a huge Vanda, I went for a smaller one. It's still not the tiniest plant in my collection. So I potted inside this container, this decorative pot for now. I will check how it is growing, developing and everything. I think it will be fine. I need to find a space now for it. I don't have any, but I will leave it by the window for now until I found a place under my growing light. But let's see, hopefully this cake will produce roots because I do think this plant has some problems, some issues. I don't know. I need to observe. But I wait for the roots to the cake to produce roots and pot it separately. And yes, that was all for today. I hope you have enjoyed hanging out with me. And if you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you enjoy this type of videos, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.